Today, I have for you 5 farmhouse style Christmas and July decor you are going to love. Stay tuned. All right, let's get started here with this double wine box that I thrifted several months ago. As soon as I saw it, I knew I had to have it. It has a very unique shape. I actually wasn't sure what it was at first. I don't drink wine. So it was one of those things where I'm like, what is this? But I quickly caught on. I love it. It's pretty sturdy, and I just thought I'm going to make something. So I decided to make a little mailbox for Santa. So I cleaned it off, removed all the hardware from it, and now I'm going to give it 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white. Once the chalk paint was fully dry, I am going to distress it just lightly on all the edges. That way it just gives it a little bit of a more farmhouse look to it. But I'm not going to go overboard. I just want to highlight those edges by distressing it just a bit.
Jingle bells ringing in my ear. Jingle bell, a sound that's oh so dear. Frosty the snowman is all around town. Watch out for reindeers.
I am now going to place the hardware back on it. These hardware were stunning, guys. These little joints back here, the hinges, they look like little belt buckles. They were just so beautiful. I don't know. I guess I just love the box. It was very nicely made. So I'm just going to reuse them, place them back to where they need to go, as well as the top handle one that came with it. And then using my Cricut, I decided to cut out the phrase letters for Santa. I love, love, love this for my kids, where they can place their little letters and whatnot. So I just thought it would be a cool concept. And the box kind of looked like a mailbox, I think, right? Maybe. I don't know. So I'm just going to place it right in the front. And then I decided to add a little bit of greenery just to make it a little bit more festive. And we're going to do that on the top of the box. I used some greenery that I got on Amazon, and I just thought it would look cool to have a little bit of a greenery festive decor. So I'm just going to make a very simple little swag for the box and hot glue it on the top.
We stay up waiting for Santa tonight. He climbs down the chimney at the speed of light while we're dancing around the Christmas tree, hugging and kissing.
The ribbon I'm using is a combination of dollar stores. I'm not using much, just a little bit, a little buffalo check ribbon there, and then I'm just going to make a very simple bow, dovetail the legs there, and then hot glue in the center of the swag.
Carolers are singing outside our door, lovely songs we all heard before as they walk from house to house.
I thought it needed a little bit more of just a little festive berry, so I'm just going to add these here from the Dollar Tree, and I'm just going to hot glue a couple picks right in between the greenery and the bow. And that way, again, it's just going to add a little bit of detail to the little swag there that I created. And that's it for this one. One of my favorites. I love, love, love the way it turned out. I can't wait to use it this year. I think it just looks awesome with overall decor style that I have for Christmas. And I love, love, love the way it turned out. So for this next DIY, I am going to take this door that actually one of my cousins gave me. She was just getting rid of some things, and she asked if I wanted it, and I said, of course I do. So I cleaned it up really well, although it was very clean, and I'm going to give the whole thing 2 coats of Rust-Oleum chalk paint in the linen white, and that's including the glass. Once the paint was dry, I am going to very carefully sand down the edges of the wooden part. I'm going to avoid the glass portion. I don't want to compromise it and it break on me. So I'm just going to focus on the wood as well as the knob on the top. And then because this does have a glass portion, I am going to seal everything in with this Rust-Oleum chalked top coat. It's clear. I just want to make sure it's not going to come off and it's just going to be nicely sealed for years to come because I want to keep this sign for a long time. And I do want to let you know that today's video is sponsored by Cricut. I'm sure you're familiar with who they are. They are an amazing company that provide cutting tools and cutting machines to make home decor and crafting a lot easier and fun, actually. So using my Cricut design space, I usually just create the design. Either I purchase one from the Cricut design space or I create my own. It is pretty simple and user-friendly. And I am going to use my Explorer Air 2 that Cricut sent me. It's a beautiful machine. You can switch up the blades to cut whatever you may need, or you can even draw using some markers like this one here. The Cricut Air 2 is actually my second cutting machine. I've stuck with the Explorer family and I really enjoy all they have to offer. So I really love it. So it's very simple. You just switch the knob to whatever product or whatever vinyl you are going to be cutting. And then you make sure that you either have it connected to your computer using a hard wire that comes with the machine, or you can also connect it Bluetooth wise. So it would be wirelessly as well. And then once you have the vinyl on the cutting mat, the machine does all the work for you. It's very easy and a lot of fun. And that's exactly what I did here for the design for this huge sign. I cut out these little pine trees that I actually found on the design space, and I just cut out several of them. Same design, I just copied and pasted, and I cut them all to where I have enough to line the entire bottom of the door. Then I cut out the phrase Farmhouse Christmas, and I'm just going to place the farmhouse on the top portion of the sign, making sure that it's nicely centered. And then I also cut the Christmas that you see there, and I placed it right underneath the farmhouse. That way it's going to have Farmhouse Christmas. This is going to go right on top of my mantle, and I think it's going to look gorgeous. I'm going to use some of this greenery that I got at the dollar store, and it's just basically some greenery ties, and I'm going to fold them, or not fold them, but tie them in half, and then I am going to start placing additional greenery and additional berries. Just make it pretty and Christmassy, and this is what I'm going to place on the top. So this is going to go right underneath the door handle. Once I had that secured, I am going to take some of this buffalo check black and red ribbon from the Dollar General, and I'm just going to start placing or creating a simple bow. This is so that we can place it right in the center of the arrangement. And again, I'm just going to hot glue it in place and have it all set there for the top. And we're just about done with this one, guys. I think this one is absolutely beautiful. It's absolutely one of my favorites, one that I created today. I love the size of it, and it is heavy duty. The glass makes it very heavy duty, but just beautiful, very farmhouse style, very simple too. I love simplicity, but I just love the way this one turned out. For this next DIY, I am going to take this board that I thrifted. I actually thrifted a couple of them, and one of them I already used, and this one I'm going to use to make a very rustic style Christmas decor. And again, using my Cricut, I cut out the design. The reindeer portion of the design is actually from Cricut Design Space. So this is the kind of designs you can actually find in Cricut Design Space, and they're not expensive to purchase, and once you purchase them you can reuse them over and over again, which is pretty cool. Then I just wrote the phrase North Pole Reindeer Farm and place it right above the reindeer, and then I'm just going to transfer it right on top. This is again going to be a very large sign. This is going to be pretty heavy duty as well. This board is heavy duty. I have no idea what it was prior to this, but I'm glad I found it because it is gorgeous. Now I'm just going to take some burlap ribbon, and I'm just going to start making a very simple bow. It's going to be on the larger side because this board is pretty large, and I'm just going to start adding some Christmas decor. So we're going to add some moss, which is not it's a very unusual thing to use, but I wanted to keep it very organic, very rustic. So we're going to use some moss, we're going to use some greenery, some evergreens, and then some little Christmas decor. We're just going to hot glue them underneath the reindeer, but centered to the board. And I think this one turned out so beautiful. For this next DIY, guys, I am going to create an outdoor little Christmas tree, but this is going to be very different. This is going to be a fabric Christmas tree that is going to go on my porch. So I'm going to start by using some foam core from the dollar store, and I'm just going to start tracing a triangle. I'm now going to take this piece of scrap 2x3 that I had in my garage, and this is going to be the back portion of the tree. This is what's going to keep it nicely sturdy so it doesn't bend on me, because you know that foam core is not too sturdy. I'm going to hot glue it as well as staple it in place. I am now going to take this, it looks like drop cloth, but it's not. It's a thinner version of it. It actually came as part of a this like huge sack bag that I got at Dollar General, and I used the front for a different DIY, and the leftover fabric I am going to use to cover the tree. So this is what's going to be on the outside of the tree, and then eventually we're going to stuff. So once I had it cut in the shape that I needed, I did, as you can see, cut it to where I have about 3 inches excess to the sides, because we're going to stuff it and we want to make sure we have enough room for that. So I'm going to start folding it on the sides. Now, it's a triangle, so things, you know, don't always fold very evenly, but it worked out in the end. So at first I'm going to start hot gluing it just so that I can get it the shape that I needed and secure enough so that I can start stuffing it. Once I had the fabric nicely secure, I am going to now stuff it using some plastic bags. That way it's going to be safe for the weather outside. And as I stuff and as I start like really getting it in there, I do want to start or continue to hot glue in place the sides. And that way, as I stuff, everything's going to be nicely tightened. You know, you want it's like upholstering. You want to make sure you pull from here and there to make sure the front is going to be nicely stretched and just nice. So as you can see there, it's coming along nicely. I'm just going to finish stuffing a little bit more here and there and then finish it off and attach the bottom portion. Once I had everything where I wanted it, I'm going to secure it using some staples. And I guess you really don't have to. It's just, again, because it's going to be outdoors, I really want to make sure that it's nicely secure. And then I did have to make sure that the top pointy part of the triangle of the tree is going to be folded nicely. So I just kept folding it until I had a nice tip where it didn't look all scrunched up. I'm going to take some ticking stripe ribbon from the Dollar General and I'm going to start hot gluing it right on the left side portion, kind of like left center of the tree. And this is just to add a little bit of character, a little bit of decor. We're going to keep this on the simple side, but I am going to hot glue it all the way to the bottom. Now it's time to create a base for the tree to make sure that it's going to stand and not fall. And I'm going to use some scrap 1x. This is like a 1x4. And I cut them 4 pieces. And I'm going to start wood gluing them and as well as brad nailing them to each side. And you're going to start seeing it. It's going to go on each side of the 2x3 that I placed in the back. I left that portion on the bottom of the 2x3 and this is what is going to be on the base. So I'm going to again wood glue, brad nail it, and you're going to start seeing that I'm going to start placing them where they're like each board is facing in a different direction. That way we have north, south, east, west kind of boards facing, and then that way it's going to stay nicely even and not tip over to one side. Once I have them nicely secure, I'm going to stain them now using some chalked, Rust-Oleum chalked glaze. And I'm just going to start being very carefully. I should have stained them before I attached them, but I didn't. So I'm going to do it now, and I'm going to very carefully brush it on and then wipe off any excess. And we are done, my friend. I am so excited the way this one turned out. I think it's going to look gorgeous on my porch. I love that it's very simple, yet has a kind of like a rustic, very primitive look to it. I really like that. I'm going to take my pocket hole maker here. It's a Craig jig. And after I cut all the pieces that I needed. So I'm going to need 8 pieces of the 2x3 that I used earlier. This is just a scrap one that I got, or the leftover one. I'm going to cut them all into 8-inch pieces. So I'm going to need 8 of those. And then I'm going to use a 2x2, and I'm going to cut 4 pieces. They are 21 inches tall. And this is so that I can make a lantern box. And so I'm going to use my pocket hole maker because it's just so much easier. But again, if you don't have these tools, you can certainly just screw them in and it should be just fine. So pocket holes will just basically hide the screw and just gives you very, very strong joints. Once I had all the pocket holes screwed, I just did one on each end. I am now going to start making the top and the bottom of the lantern box. So as you can see, now the pocket holes, I use screws that are meant for these pocket holes, and you can get them very easily at the hardware store. And I'm just going to keep doing this to put together the bottom and the top.
Go outside, the snow is falling down and every child is having so much fun. The snowman is twice the size as me, with a smile as quirky as mine. We're holding hands to keep each other warm while we stand and watch a choir performing all the Christmas songs that we love. Yeah, all the Christmas songs that we love. And in a while we're gonna go inside and drink our chocolate by the
And now I am going to take the longer pieces in the 2x2, and I'm just going to do the same thing. Screw them in, one in each corner.
'Cause all I want is to spend this day with you. Let me give you a Christmas, a moment we'll fill with love and joy. Ooh.
Now I'm going to place it on top of the other base. And it may seem like it doesn't match, but it's okay because you just have to kind of manipulate it and hold it in place until you screw it in, and it turned out really well. I've got my little helper trying to help there. I just love him.
I'm making plans for what we're gonna do. I feel so blessed that I can be with you. It will fill with love.
All right, so now I'm going to take regular household paint. This is actually an interior paint. However, it's going to be fine because, again, my porch is covered, so I don't think everything's going to get extremely wet or anything, but it should be fine. So this is all I had on hand. I didn't want to use chalk paint because I think that would definitely, if it gets wet, it's just not going to look the same. But I think this paint will be fine. So I'm going to give it one coat, but it's going to be a pretty heavy coat. And the reason I'm going to give it one coat is because I'm going to heavily distress it. So I'm not looking for perfection on the coverage. And then once it was paint, I am going to distress it using my hand sander, but you can certainly use regular sandpaper. It's just a lot quicker, and I do want a heavy distress, so the electric sander works best in my opinion. And I'm just going to focus on the edges all around the lantern box. All right, so I'm going to take one of these rustic little trees I thrifted 2 years ago, and I did a trash to treasure video. I'll have it linked in the description box. It was probably like my second video ever made. And so I still use them. I use them every year, and this time I got 3 of them. This time I'm going to use one of the smaller ones, and I'm going to place it right inside the lantern box. I am now going to take some of this ribbon from the Dollar General. It's a burlap kind of ribbon. It is wired, which is awesome. And I'm going to make a double loop bow and attach it to the bottom. That's it. I'm not going to hot glue it or anything. I'm just going to wrap it around, tie it to the base of the tree, and that's it. I thought about adding a little bit more to it, but I just, I always lean towards the keep it simple principle, and it's worked for me. So, but if you are going to make anything like this, you can certainly add as much as you want. But for this one, I just wanted to keep it pretty simple. I may add some lights to the tree once it's out on my porch, but if I do, it's going to be on the video when I decorate my porch. So again, check out my new channel and subscribe.
To have a place that I can come home to. Yes, I am on my way. We'll put our differences aside and just enjoy this moment of peace and love and happiness. We come together to celebrate. Yes, every time the snow is falling down and it is cold outside, we gather around the fireplace and no one cares about yesterday. My favorite holiday. It means so much more than words can say.
For this next DIY, I'm going to take this 1x10 that I got at the hardware store, and I cut it to about 4 feet long, and I'm going to stain it using Waverly Antiquing Wax, and I'm just going to apply it and wipe it off any excess, and that way it's going to have a dark stained base. And you're going to see why. We're going to create an outdoor joy sign, and I am going to distress it. I'm going to give it a technique that I'm going to show you here, and I want that dark base to be there instead of the light wood base. So I'm going to take some Artisa acrylic paint, and I'm going to start scraping it on. If you follow me for a while, you know that I've used this technique several times, and all I'm going to do is take a little bit of paint on the scraper, and then I'm going to just start scraping it down. So what it's going to do is going to give it a very rustic, distressed look. You're still going to be able to see the wood grain underneath, but it's just going to look very almost distressed, I guess, weathered. There we go. It's going to look very weathered, and I'm going to do that all the way to the bottom of the board.
Jingle bells ringing in my ear. Jingle bell, a sound that's oh so dear. Frosty the snowman is all around town. Watch out for reindeers are falling down. We stay up waiting for Santa tonight. He climbs down the chimney at the speed of light while we're dancing around the
Using my Cricut, once again, I cut out the word joy. And actually, this word I used as a stencil with another DIY. And this time, I'm going to take it and use it as a stencil. So I'm going to just take the J and the Y, and I am going to place them kind of like towards the top on the bottom. This is because we are going to create a outdoor joy sign for my porch. So I'm going to take the J and the Y, and I'm going to start placing it again. This time it's going to be a stencil instead of a decal. And I'm just going to place it where I want to see them. And then we are going to start stenciling it using some white paint.
Christmas tree. Hugging and kissing, just you and me. Carolers are singing outside our door. Lovely songs we all heard before. As they walk from house to house to wish us all a Merry Christmas Day. Oh, a Merry Christmas Day.
Once again, I am using the interior latex regular household paint, and I'm going to use the scraping technique to stencil it so that it continues to have that look that I'm looking for, the weathered rustic look. So I'm being very careful not to go outside of the lines, but this is the first time I ever stenciled using the scraping technique, and I think it turned out pretty cool.
All across the town, later we meet under the mistletoe. While Santa's busy saying ho, ho, ho. We're feeling jolly, eating Christmas cake. And then we go skating on the frozen lake. Saying hi to every friendly face. And later we warm up by the fireplace. Carolers are singing outside our door. Lovely songs we all heard before. As they walk from house to house to wish us all a Merry Christmas Day.
This wreath form I got at the Target dollar spot. I thought it was pretty cool. It has that evergreen look to it. I just thought it just looked perfect for this one, actually. I really love it. So I'm just going to place it in the center. That's going to be my O for the joy. And I'm just going to screw in a little screw here, and then that's where we can hang it from.
Merry Christmas Day. A Merry Christmas Day.
And because it's going to be outdoors, I do want it to be pretty secure. So I'm going to use some flexible wire here, and I'm going to wrap it around and twist it around the wreath as well as the screw. And again, that way if there's any wind, the wreath is not going to go flying anywhere.
Oh, yeah.
I'm going to reuse the ribbon that came with the wreath form, and I'm just going to make a very simple bow with it. I'm just going to hot glue it to the top of the wreath.
Carolers are singing outside our door. Lovely songs we all heard before.
This rope here I got from a different DIY. It was leftover, and I just thought it would look really cool with the contrast of the light color. I didn't have enough to double loop it and tie it in the back, but I am going to staple it in place. I did crisscross it in the front, and I just thought it looked pretty cool.
From house to house to wish us all a Merry Christmas Day. Yeah. A Merry Christmas Day.
And I did the same thing at the bottom, and I just thought it just finished the whole thing off. It looked really cool. I have it now for my porch, and I just love the way that the technique looked on this board. It looks very rustic. It looks very weathered, and it looks like it came like this. It looks like something you would definitely buy at a boutique. Love it. So this is it for today, friend. I am so excited that I got to do this Christmas in July video. I hope you enjoy it, and I hope it inspires you to create your own decor at home using some supplies. I want to thank Cricut for sponsoring this video. Check out their link down below in the description box. If you have not yet joined our YouTube family, I ask that you consider doing so. And if you are returning, thank you so much for coming back. I have a playlist here with tons more of inspiration for you. Make sure to click this link here. I'll see you later and have a blessed day. Bye.